Have you ever experienced a glitch in the Matrix? Well, if so, please consider sending it my way. Just go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to do so. And of course, thank you. Okay, so I believe I may have posted this a few years ago, shortly after it happened. I'm writing it again because I was recently on a call with my mother, and without prompting, she brought it up. The story is about 5 years old now, give or take a few months. For a while, I thought maybe I had dreamed it or something, but my mom corroborated the story. I was 18 at the time, and it was my first Thanksgiving that I wasn't in school. My mom and I were taking our usual 7-hour trip up north. On holidays like this, it was more like 9 hours, to our family in New Jersey for the holiday. We used to live up there, and since moving down south, we made, and still make, the trip up north about 4 or 5 times a year. Needless to say, we are abundantly familiar with the interstate. We are abundantly familiar with the entire route, to be honest. The way we always go is by taking Route 64 to 295 before getting on the interstate, the beautiful I-95. It sucks. It's always filled with traffic, so naturally the two of us leave at ungodly hours in the morning. This doesn't bug either of us, really, because we both wake up early anyways. So, this trip started off like any other. We were out of the door by 6:15 and had our Chick-fil-A in hand by 6:30, and were filled up on gas and on the road by 7 or so. The first part of the trip was fine. We put on music, talked about random stuff, and gossiped as mothers and daughters do. By the time we got on the 295 exit, it was still fairly early, but both of us were wide awake. She took the exit and we were set. The road looked as it always did, and nothing was out of the ordinary. After a few minutes of driving, though, something felt very wrong. Gone were the multiple lanes of the highway. We were on now what looked to be a country road. It cut through a cornfield and only had one lane of traffic in either direction. We were, as far as either of us could see, the only ones driving on that stretch of road. There was a little farmhouse on our right side, but that's about it. My mom and I were both really taken aback because we had just been on the highway. Neither of us had noticed any exits, nor had my mom gotten off at the wrong one. We'd been on 295 and then suddenly we weren't. My mom tried to rationalize it at first, saying that she probably wasn't paying attention because she had a bit of a headache forming and had just gotten off the wrong exit. At the time, I agreed with her, but something felt very, very off. And suddenly, the Chick-fil-A breakfast was not sitting so well anymore. There weren't any signs for directions, only a few speed limit signs as we kept going. When I looked at the dashboard clock, too, only a minute or so had gone by. By the looks of it, we were in the middle of nowhere, Virginia. Time to me didn't seem to match up, but I just felt weird and dizzy at that point. My mom decided to keep driving forward. I don't know why she didn't just K-turn so we could go back, but she's always been one to prefer to get actual directions. We didn't have cell service either, so that may have been why. That's pretty normal for rural Virginia, though. I work on a haunted farm during the Halloween season, so I'm used to pretty spotty reception. Cornstalks do not a cell tower make. Well, we kept on driving, and after maybe 15 minutes, we came to what I guess was this census-designated place's idea of a town. By this, I mean there was a service station and a church. We stopped the car, they filled us up, and my mom asked for directions. The guys were pretty nice, your typical laid-back Southerners. They did tease my mom for her New York accent, though. When we explained that we'd gotten turned around coming off of 295, they looked really surprised. The younger of the two guys said that, coming from the direction we were driving towards 295N, not away from it. That really threw us for a loop. They asked if we'd ever done this trip before, or if we were new to Virginia, etc. And they were shocked when we said yes. We all got quiet after that, and my mom and I got back in our car and drove another 20 minutes to get back onto the highway. Once we were back en route, the pit in my stomach went away. Neither of us really talked anymore about it, and we didn't mention it to our family once we got to New Jersey. I've thought about this experience a lot since it happened. I tried to rationalize it, but the more I think about it, the weirder it gets. Sure, plenty of people make mistakes driving when they're tired, but my mom and I both had our coffee well before this had happened. What really trips me up is how we were driving towards 295 and not away from it, and how far away from the exit we were on that country road. That, and how little time had passed between being on the interstate and not being on the interstate. Like I said, I thought maybe I had just dreamt it. I was on the phone with my mom yesterday, though, and she brought it up out of nowhere. I guess she was thinking about it because we were trying to decide what to do for Thanksgiving. She asked if I remembered that time that we teleported, which is a very funny way to start a conversation, but then she got serious and said that it had freaked her out. She recounted the events almost exactly how I did, except she did say that there was a sign along the country road pointing towards the service station. Regardless of what actually happened, it was a bizarre and jarring experience. At least it taught me to always appreciate friendly gas station employees. So, this actually happened a few years ago, and it's only because I've found myself here on this sub that I remember it. The weirdest thing happened to me and my boyfriend one night. So, for a little context, I'll just say that I live close to a motorway, and there's this one huge roundabout just off it that you can take to get to a couple of destinations. Anyways, it's a big roundabout with 3 lanes and 5 exits. The exit that takes us in the direction to my house is the second one as you come off the motorway, and it's distinct because it's the only exit on this roundabout where you have to go under a bridge, and it's all lit up. This roundabout is always busy because it separates 2 towns. So here's what happened, and it all happened quite fast. We came off the motorway and it was about an hour or so after rush hour, so it wasn't super busy, but wasn't dead either. We were driving towards the roundabout in the right lane, of 2 lanes, and we need to move to the left in order to be able to get onto the left lane of the roundabout and exit at the correct point. As we're about to switch lanes, another car, the same as ours, significant or not, cuts us up and we end up missing the exit. So I'm like, oh, great. We're gonna have to go all the way back around now. This was annoying because I needed to go to the restroom, but hey ho, so we start to drive around it again and reach the light at the 3rd exit of the roundabout, which are red, so we wait. When they turn green, we set off, and then the weirdest thing happened. Just as quickly as we blinked, we were driving down the exits that we were originally supposed to take. We were coming out of the other end of the bridge with the lights. It was absolutely impossible because we had missed that exit, and we needed to do a whole other loop of the roundabout to get back to it again. Not to mention the fact that the exit road itself is quite lengthy before you reach the bridge. I use this roundabout multiple times a week. I know it like the back of my hand, and I've lived in this town all my life. At first instance, I thought it might just have been me being tired and not concentrating, but I looked at my boyfriend and his face was just like, WTF. So I said, "Did you just see that happen as well?" And he was like, "Yeah, what the hell just happened?" Absolutely no explanation for it at all, and we were just weirded out for the rest of the night. If you think there may be a logical explanation for this, please share because I really cannot explain it. I once posted this on a missing time sub, but it's fairly inactive. And I'm kind of curious if anyone knows anything about possible causes of missing time. Some backstory before starting. This occurred in the summer of 2012. I've only experienced missing time incidents a few times, but will only share the story of the first time, because that's the only one that had corroborating witnesses, so I could be absolutely certain of all the bizarre details. So, this friend, who we'll call Geo, would occasionally make what we jokingly call our game night Walmart runs. Basically, on some weekends, when some of our schedules lined up right for us to be able to play video games late into the night like old times, we would sometimes have to take a brief intermission to go get coffee, snacks, and energy drinks. These runs would typically occur around 2 or 3 a.m., and the reason we chose Walmart was because there was a Walmart that was only about 3/4 of a mile away. On this particular summer night in 2012, energy drinks were the only thing we were running low on, and so we'd figured we would take a little break at 12:47 a.m. to go get just the energy drinks and head back. If you're thinking that it's oddly specific that I remember exactly 12:47 a.m., we'll get back to that later. Geo and I volunteered to be the ones to head out for the drinks, and we hop in my car and drive straight to the Walmart. No red lights along the way, and we head straight inside and spend only about 2 or 3 minutes in the store. Wanting to get back to our gaming night, we rushed to grab only what we needed and headed to self-checkout. We drove straight home and arrived to our other friends seeming much more tired and exhausted than when we left, and they asked what took so long. We thought they were joking and gave a smart-ass response of how long a drive it was. They seemed confused and demanded a more serious answer. That's when we got confused and asked what they were talking about. They showed us the clock, and we couldn't believe that it was 4:30 in the morning. We also checked the time on our phones to confirm this. Yep, 4:30 a.m. At this point, we started telling them everything. How we rushed straight there, we went through the store quickly and came straight back. They obviously weren't buying it. It's at this point that we started double-checking to make sure that we had our timeline right. They sent us a text with a list of each of their preferred energy drinks, so we double-checked the time on that since they sent it seconds after we walked out the door. Yep, 12:47 a.m. Geo and I have discussed this incident a few times, trying to make sense of what happened. Ultimately, we've never been able to come up with any answers that make sense. As far as the friends we were hanging out with that night, I'm unsure if they believed us or not that we really did go straight there and come straight back. It still makes me a little uneasy trying to untangle the confusion of what could have possibly happened that night. While neither Geo nor I have any clue what happened that night, all we can seemingly agree on is something odd must have happened that neither of us can remember. I remember the events as continuous, and I've confirmed with Geo that he does too. It's not, we head there, get the drinks, and then there's a break in the memory, and then we head back. It's just a continuous sequence of events of driving there, rushing through the store to get the drinks, to get back to our game night ASAP, and then heading straight home. I've had this happen 3 distinct times, several years apart. First, when I was an idiotic 16-year-old, I had recently gotten my license and was driving myself and my little sister home from school. I was cocky and tried showing off for her, turning up the music and headbanging for a few seconds. When I opened my eyes, I remember being a moment away from hitting a parked car. The very next moment, I was 2 blocks back where I turned onto the street. I pulled over in a panic and my sister asked me why I was stopping. I asked her about that moment at least 10 years later, and she said she doesn't remember me headbanging or the music being loud. Just wondering why I was stopping so far from home. Second, I was driving to a music festival when I was 20. The festival was a 3-hour drive away, and I went with 2 friends, one of which said we could take his new white Mustang. It was super early, and he said that he was up late the night before, so he insisted that I drive. As we neared the festival, I got to a winding inner-city highway on-ramp, and I couldn't see the approaching traffic very easily, and I wasn't familiar with driving in the area. So, I treated it as any other on-ramp. And I swear that we got hit by a semi that I saw last minute. But the next instant, I was at a complete stop at the end of the on-ramp, with the semi crossing in front of us. I never brought that up with the other 2, since I was driving someone else's new car, and it felt wrong to mention it. Finally, I was in my early 20s and remember driving across the state with my sister on our way back from visiting family. It was late, probably 10 p.m. I was in the left-hand lane and someone came up on me faster than I anticipated. They passed me on the right as I saw another car approaching quickly. I moved to the right lane immediately as the first car passed me to get out of the way of the second car. I hear a loud grinding sound as I hit the black trailer the first car was pulling, only to blink and see the first car and trailer well ahead of me. There was no damage on my car, and my sister didn't see or hear anything weird once again. I'm at the point where I try to avoid driving if possible. I'd rather offer to just pay to help someone cover the cost of gas if it means that I don't have to drive. I've been sitting on these for a while now, and I think about them pretty regularly whenever I'm on a long road trip. I'm still tripped up over what happened. For some background, a little over a month ago, purchased this really nice green flannel for $60. Now, for the past month or month and a half, I've been wearing this flannel basically non-stop, and it was never out of my sight for very long. Well, this past Friday, I left my house to head over to my boyfriend's. Now, I have multiple Ring cameras around my condo/parking area that showed me very clearly having that green flannel in my bag that I packed for his place. So, I know for a fact that I left with it Friday night around 9 p.m. Saturday morning rolls around, and I drive back to my place very early to drive my mom to the airport, and my Ring camera footage very clearly showed that I did not bring it back to my house. I also know for a fact that I left all of my stuff at his place, as I knew that I would return after the drive to the airport. Later that Saturday, when I returned to my boyfriend's house, I noticed that my green flannel, which I always place very carefully on an office chair in his room, is nowhere to be seen. I start panicking because it was expensive, plus I almost never lose or misplace things, and I tear apart not only his entire room searching everywhere for it, but I also tear up his entire house looking in places that I had not even gone with it. I even checked my car, his car, my mom's car. This flannel had entirely disappeared without explanation. Once I eventually head back to my house Monday morning, I begrudgingly go out to repurchase the flannel, thinking that, if anything, I will keep the tags on this new one while I spend the entire week recombing through every square inch of my boyfriend's house, as well as my place. Tell me why I randomly wake up around 3 a.m. to the lost flannel ever so casually, laying across my bed under my feet. I was home alone with no one else other than my dog. I cannot explain it in any logical form how it reappeared out of seemingly thin air. When searching for it, I even unfolded all of my blankets that I had folded up on my bed, thinking that maybe it was between the blankets, but it wasn't. I'm happy it's back, but damn, am I confused. One of the most significant, yet basic glitches that I've experienced was a time when I was walking along the road. It was autumn, so leaves were falling. I was a fair distance from any tree, though, but things felt still. And despite being in a large town, there wasn't any traffic, noise, or people. I remember it being super calm and was just looking ahead, fully aware of things, rather than just daydreaming as I walked or looking at my phone. From the beginning of noticing what happened to the end, it was about 20 seconds, and I was not intoxicated at all. This location is usually noisy and busy, but I was alone. I recall feeling like everything had slowed down. It was so quiet, and looking back, I think it was similar to when video games don't render the environment fast enough, and it takes a while to process everything. So, what happened was that I saw a large bunch of leaves suddenly begin to spin around like a vortex about 15 steps away, even though the weather was calm. It doesn't seem unrealistic that these things happen in a breeze. However, as I looked at this, which was literally the only thing around that seemed to be occurring, the leaves were randomly starting to spiral around, all at different speeds. So, it caught my attention. The leaves were going up about 5 or 6 feet in the air, and I noticed that they seemed to be out of place. Why would there be about 50 leaves altogether? No stray ones here or there or spread around the vicinity, just one pile that suddenly began to spin around up ahead, and that somehow ended up there, even though the closest tree was 100 meters away. All of a sudden, as I walked closer and looked at this happen, one single brown leaf stopped. It was above the rest of them, which were in motion, almost like a shoal of fish, and it just got stuck. In midair, in the middle of the empty road, in broad daylight. It was like it had been paused, or that the codes that nature/the simulation uses to process the weather had bugged out and frozen like on a computer. One single leaf totally motionless over 5 feet up in the air, as all the others moved around it. It didn't move for maybe 4-5 seconds. I looked and began to move towards it, and spoke out loud something like, "What the hell?" And as I got closer, all the other leaves just dropped down on the ground motionless. But that leaf didn't fall immediately. It dropped about 2 seconds after the rest. As I stood staring bewildered at a single leaf there just stuck in the air like a broken pixel on a TV screen. It's almost like it bugged out and it took a moment for it to be processed. I did laugh, but the image of that single leaf stuck right in the air still causes me confusion to this very day. Afterwards, around 30 seconds later, I noticed all the sounds of cars and people playing music, shouting in the distance, sirens, the birds singing, and all the usual things. I feel like it faded back, but in such a way that it startled me. Like when you turn the volume dial on a powerful sound system up high for a second, and it makes you jump. Things were just suddenly loud again. I wish I had thought to pick that leaf up. Maybe I should have walked faster and walked through this leaf vortex just to see what happened, but that's how it is, always in hindsight. It was only later that day I realized just how bizarre this situation was. I'll never be able to get my head around that, and it's just such a simple thing. All I can say is that it definitely was not normal, and I honestly wish that you could all realize how real it was. Maybe there's bugs in the code for Mother Nature, or the simulation, but I haven't a clue of why an isolated pile of leaves would suddenly create a vortex that high without it being windy, and behave in such a way, as well as that sensation of the world around me fading out like that. Who knows? I still wonder about that one brown leaf from time to time. All I know is that I saw what I saw. Thanks for reading, people. I appreciate it, and forgive me for this long essay. Please, speculate if you have any comments to make. I just felt it was time to stop lurking here and make a contribution. Yours sincerely, a 34-year-old man from the rural East Midlands of England. Peace and love to all. This happened a while back. My best friend's sister had a football practice in a school gym, and we decided to tag along. As we arrive, I notice the school is right next to a cemetery, so obviously I pointed out because it's spooky. It's relevant later. At this point, we're in the gym and practice has started, but since we were 3 girls trying to gossip and such in privacy, we decided not to stay in the gym. So we wandered along the halls and found an empty locker room with a no cell phone sign on the door. We were on a ghost jokes rampage because of the cemetery, so to be silly, I opened the door and stuck my hand in there, waving my phone and shouting, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" We laughed it off, thinking nothing of it, and then proceeded to our normal activities. When, at some point, I realized I can't find my phone. I definitely remember rolling my jacket into a ball, dropping it on the bench, and then putting my phone on top, so knowing I hadn't moved it, I thought one of my friends took it as a joke. So we decided to start searching, and since no one had come in or out of the locker room, the phone had to still be in there. Mind you, it's a pretty small space. It was divided in one bathroom area, only one stall, one toilet, one sink, the shower area, with 6 shower stalls, and the main locker area which we had stayed in. Lockers on 2 opposite walls, a window on the back wall, and 2 benches in front of the lockers. So we opened every single locker, we checked on the window frame, literally everywhere possible, even the trash can. An important detail is that the top of the lockers was slanted in a way that any object put on it would slide off, so it couldn't have been there. My phone was nowhere to be found. I even body searched my friends. Eventually we had to go, so I had to come to terms with the fact that my phone had disappeared, but as we were walking out, I convinced my best friend's mom to let me go check one last time. Of course, I didn't want to go alone, so my friends came with me. We get to the locker room, and as soon as we open the door, bam, we hear something loudly hitting the floor. There was my phone, in the middle of the room, facing down after we had just seen it fall from thin air. There was nothing on the ceiling that could have been holding it. The most odd part is that, when picking it up, I directly inspected it to see if the fall had damaged it. No cracks, but instead, condensed drops of water under my screen on the top right corner. I have no idea what actually happened, but we like to joke and say that it was just a goofy ghost. This was late at night, maybe around 2 in the morning. Everyone living in my house was asleep, and I was just scrolling through Twitter and TikTok. I had my AirPods in my ear and the case right next to me in bed. I had gotten up to grab another cover from the closet when I heard something drop. I assumed it was my Fire Stick, but when I returned to my bed, it was still there. So I thought no biggie. It must have been my AirPod case. But when I went to look for it, I couldn't find it. I looked under my bed and under my dresser, but still couldn't find the damn AirPod case. since it was so late at night, I just decided to leave my AirPods on my nightstand and look for the actual case the next morning. The next morning, I began to clean my room, and I mean deep clean. I moved my bed, my dresser, my nightstand, everything and anything. I even looked in my shoes and deep in my closet, but I never found my case. I know it was late at night and I was tired, but I remember having it next to me, and I remember hearing something fall to the ground. I even asked my mom to help look, but neither of us ever found anything. It was so strange and frustrating because, one, they were expensive, and two, my room isn't even that big. So it's not like it's in a part of my room that I never go to. To this day, I never found the AirPod case, and I ended up having to buy a new one. Thankfully, that wasn't as expensive. So that was this week's Glitch in the Matrix collection. I know it was a little shorter than normal, and I apologize for that. My voice sounds pretty okay right now, but whenever I was recording yesterday and started off recording today, it was bad. And it's actually kind of breaking right now, too. I don't know why my voice is going away again, but welcome to my world, right? Welcome to the world of a, I guess, narrator, or technically voice actor, whatever you want to call me. I don't know. I call myself a narrator, so yeah. There is that. If you did enjoy the collection today, please consider hitting that thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, like Glitch in the Matrix stories, I do them weekly, every Monday. And this week, Tuesday. Don't ask questions. And yeah, you can hit the subscribe button. Make yourself a subscriber, part of the Nevermore, if you will. And then there's the thanks, Patreon, memberships, all that to support the channel further. Patrons and early access, patrons and members get early access is what I was trying to say. As long as I'm ahead and not struggling to record again, I post them as quickly as I can. So, yeah. Lastly, another thing you can do is leave me a comment down below with the word of the week. Last week's word of the week was breeze, and several of you left comments with the word breeze, and I didn't expect that many, but you know, it happened. Y'all pulled through for me, so on the screen now, and of course several seconds prior to now, is a list of everybody who left a comment with the word breeze. Thank you to each and every single one of you. I appreciate it more than I can state. I cannot be overstated how much I appreciate it. But of course, you know, I do all this stuff for you guys. And those of you who indulge me and communicate with the channel or connect with it, you guys are the best. Those of you who don't, you're also the best. I get it. I don't communicate with half the channels I watch either, so. But this week, the word of the week is courtesy. C-O-U-R-T-E-S-Y. It is a noun. It is behavior marked by polished manners or respect for others, courteous and respectful act or expression, general allowance despite facts, or consideration, cooperation, and generosity in providing something such as a gift or privilege. Courtesy. It's best to be a courteous person, is in my opinion, the best way to put that. So, yeah. Good luck with that. If you want to leave a sentence, again, you'll be in next week's video. But, yeah. Until the next one, my friends, I do hope you're having a beautiful day. Hope you remember you're loved, you're important, you're valid, you're the best you that you can be. Never let anyone tell you otherwise. And until I see you again, sleep well.